Hey there friends, welcome to this episode of SelfKind with me, Erica Webb. It's episode 231 and we're going to be talking about how to honour what you're feeling when you don't like what you're feeling. So I am recording this podcast episode late. I have had a cold over the last few days and so have had to kind of push off filming for a little while. And one of the things that I sort of have been pondering, I've been kind of going back and forth in my mind, what should we record for today's podcast episode? And to be honest, I've recorded a few and then decided it just wasn't what I wanted to talk about. And what I've landed on is this idea of how do we honor what we feel when we actually really don't like what we're feeling, or when we feel like it's not what we should be feeling. And those can be kind of different things, but I think that they can fall into a similar pot for today's conversation. What I want to start with is a question of how would you speak to a friend if they were really beating up on themselves about the way that they were feeling? They were telling you that they felt sad and they were so frustrated about feeling sad, or they were telling you that they felt really down on themselves because they weren't where they thought that they would be at this point in their life, or they're feeling really embarrassed about something that happened. There is a very good chance that you would not meet your friend with extra criticism. There is a very good chance that you wouldn't sit down beside them and say, yeah, you know what, you're right. You are a bit of a fool for feeling like that. You are absolutely justified in thinking that you are no good. Like, you wouldn't do that. You love them too much for that. And as cliched as making that comparison with how you'd speak to a best friend, you know, and kind of like transposing that onto yourself and being like, do I want to talk to myself that way? As cliched as that example is, it is such an important one to come back to, because we do this to ourselves in a way that we would just never do to somebody else. And we do it because there is a sense of privacy about it, right? Nobody has to know that that's what we're thinking, because all of that self-criticism can happen on the inside. Here's the thing. When it comes to honoring how we feel, if we stick with this example of like speaking to a friend, if you take your sort of deepest feelings to a friend and you expose what's going on for you, often what we really want is for that person outside of us to just see us, to be like, gosh, that sounds really hard. I'm sorry that you're hurting. And then maybe they say to us, is there some way I can support you? What is it that I can do to help? And often our answer will be, nothing really, but thank you for listening. And so when it comes to honoring how we feel for ourselves when we don't like how we're feeling, I actually just want to come back to that. Can you give yourself the space to simply see yourself as you are, like you would for a friend, witnessing that, oh, I see this is really hard. I'm sorry that you're suffering. That is compassion. That is self-compassion. And why this is so valuable is that in just allowing ourselves to witness and honor what we're experiencing, we give ourselves the space and the opportunity to take the judgment out of it. Now, that's not to say that your brain won't judge. Your brain will, because that's what brains do. And if we are very well versed in self-criticism, if we are very well versed in kind of beating ourselves up, then there's a very good chance that that will still happen. So that witnessing can go one step further. To witness, oh wow, I'm having these thoughts that I am a bad person because of the way that I'm feeling. That's causing me to suffer even more. I'm sorry that you're hurting, right? So this idea of honoring how we feel when we don't like how we feel, when you feel, that's a lot of times saying when you feel confused about how to meet yourself in that and how to kind of make the inner critic a little less intense, a little less loud. Remember, how would I sit with a friend in this? And can I just offer myself that? And it might feel weird at the start. Whenever I work with self-compassion with other people, it's like, oh, this feels weird. And yeah, it does, because it's not what we're used to doing. But we know how to do compassion. We know how to do it because we do it for other people all the time. We do. And so learning to just pull on that and be like, oh yeah, I know what that feels like. I know how to do this. All I'm asking for myself to do is turn it towards me right now. And sometimes I think we can feel weird doing this because there's almost this sense of like, if I take the compassion for myself, does that somehow make me bad because I'm turning it this way instead of sort of turning it out to the world? They are not mutually exclusive, right? We can be compassionate towards ourselves and compassionate towards the people in the world and the world in general. And, you know, offering compassion towards ourselves does not drain the bucket of available compassion. It just doesn't. If anything, the ability that we have to turn compassionate eyes towards ourselves will actually enhance our ability to turn compassionate eyes on others. Because the closer that we're able to get to our own humanity, the closer that we're able to get to our own suffering and say, you know, you still matter in the midst of this, then we can do that same thing for other people. We get to see everybody up close, right? We get to see more of this hurt and more of this suffering up close and say, I have compassion for that, because not only do I, not only do I feel compassion that you are suffering, I also know what that feels like, right? And I know how to have compassion for myself. So when you're stuck thinking, how do I honor what I'm feeling when I don't like what I'm feeling? Just consider, how would I approach this if this was my best friend, child, partner, loved one who was telling me this out loud? How would I meet them? And can I meet myself with that same sense of openness, of love, of compassion and kindness? All right, that's all I've got for you today. I hope it's helpful. I did want to just, before I go, remind you, if you listened into Tuesday's episode, I did a whole episode around, what did I do? Losing my words. I did a whole episode around my brand new program, SOMA Home. And this program is launching for the very first time. I'm so excited about it. I actually don't think I've ever been so excited about something that I've created. And this first round, we start on the 6th of November. Registration closes on the 1st of November. So I wanted to just offer a reminder in this episode. If you're listening to it around the time it dropped, you might have a couple of days left to register before the doors close. This first round is going to be really special. It's a 6-week program all about learning to find a sense of home within your body, to befriend yourself, to meet yourself with this compassion that we're talking about, and to really start to understand like why self-care can sometimes feel like an uphill battle, and how we can actually make it just an integrated part of our self-relationship. So this first round is going to be really special because it is being built as we go. I'm going to sort of ask that the first group of people help me to turn it into the best possible program that it can be, by asking questions, by giving feedback as we go, and helping this material to be shaped into the most supportive program that it can be. So it is a reduced price for this first round as well, $125. And so I want to shout it from the rooftops, because if it's the sort of work that you are looking to do, like, this is such a good time to jump in. And I am so looking forward to holding space for this, to exploring this, and to supporting other people to see themselves with more kindness and compassion, to treat themselves with more love, because I think that this has a groundswell effect. I think that this impacts so much more than us. Not that we need to have that as a reason to do things for ourselves, but I think that it is such important work on a, micro and more macro scale. So head to the link in the show notes or the description below if you're watching on YouTube. I nearly said walking on YouTube. As I said, registrations close on the 1st of November. We start on the 6th of November, and there will be probably another round of this running next year, February, March. So if you're listening to this after the fact, if you're like, oh, it's definitely past the 1st of November, still go to the link, because there will be information about the next cohort going through. We've already got like 10 people signed up, so it's going to be a really wonderful group. If you would like to join us, I would love to welcome you in. So head to ericawebb.com.au/SOMA-home. All right, that's it. Until next week, keep being kind to yourselves. I'll talk to you soon.